Good morning. So it's illegal to get married to a same-sex partner in the state of Kansas, where I live. So I had to come to my home away from home in the state of California to marry my partner of 18 years. Thank you for hosting me. It was my surprise to have you all invited to my private ceremony. Not exactly my idea of inviting you on my honeymoon, but I'm adventurous, so thank you all for joining me this morning. I have to tell you, I'm not feeling very comfortable in my own skin these days. I'm trying things that I've never tried before, and I don't mean just marriage. I'm being called to know things that I have really had no experience with. I'm also having to make some really important decisions in my life with very little to go on except for my own intuition. Do you know what that's like? When you have nothing to go on but your own intuition. I guess it's kind of like being a new parent, you know. Out pops this child, and then suddenly, you know, no instruction manual comes out after them, and you're a dad or you're a mom, and you have no idea how to do that. And of course, everybody around you has an opinion about what they think you should do as a parent. But the truth is, you have absolutely nothing solid to go on but your own instincts and your own intuition, and that can be really, really unnerving. You're cast out there beyond your comfort zone, way out into the vast unknown. So now what do? You know, I guess I'm really just like you. I'm like most adults. We like to be comfortable. That's why God made recliners. You know, those convenient little cup stands in the recliner? It's just perfect, you know. We like being the authority. We like being the go-to guy when somebody wants to know something. And it's comfortable doing things that you've done before and going places that you've been before. And old friends are like a comfort station, aren't they? You never have to think about what they think of you. It's meeting somebody new that can be really, really awkward. I mean, tell the truth. When you go to a party, particularly this time of year, and you're faced with a room full of people that you don't know, don't you sort of search the landscape for a familiar face? You know, somebody that you can go to and land on and talk to? And we do that because it's a lot more comfortable than doing that awkward thing of having to go up to somebody that you don't know and extending your hand and saying, "Hi, my name is Chris. What's your name?" Years ago, when I lived in Atlanta in my young party days, when I used to go out to a lot of parties, I would take a weird friend of mine, a very strange woman, and I would always take her to parties with me because she was a real social butterfly. She was one of those extroverts that absolutely crave meeting new people, but she was kind of strange. So after she'd meet you and she'd talk to you for a little bit, she'd go, "So how do you like me so far?" How are you supposed to respond to that? Not so much? Go away, you know? Or are you supposed to be polite and say, "I'm sure you're very nice"? She was an anomaly. I mean, you know, one of those people that really enjoys meeting other people. I like knowing new people. I just don't like meeting them very much. It's awkward. It's strange. I loved going to Europe for the very first time. I just didn't like the process of figuring it all out, you know? You get there and you have to find your way through foreign airports and be around people that don't speak the language that you do, and it's very uncomfortable. As a rule, we humans, well, we don't like process. We like end results. Process is messy, and learning new things is uncomfortable. And the older you get, well, the more it seems you try to avoid that. Statistics will show that we become more conservative as we age. We cling to traditions and comfortable rituals. We take fewer risks as we get older, and we drive slower. Have you noticed that? And then we hear ourselves one day saying things like, "Why do they have to play the music so loud in here? I don't get it." So when I find myself in that place where I'm seeking comfort and not moving out into the unknown and trying new things, and I remind myself of the saying in the Bible that says, "In order to enter the kingdom of heaven, we must become as little children." Well, the kingdom of heaven is where God resides, and God is the unconditional love that we all crave. So in order to be in the presence of the lover, because that's what I call God, the lover, you must be open, you must be vulnerable, you must get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because that's what little children are. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. Every day is a new learning experience for them. Every day they're having to try new things and fail and try again until they succeed. They fall down, they have to get back up. They try hard at school, they get bad grades, they keep studying until they get it right. Little children dream big dreams and absolutely persist in getting what they want from life. There is nobody more persistent than a child who knows exactly what kind of toy they want for Christmas. They are trailblazers. They take new paths. And I'm thinking maybe that's what Jesus meant. You know, maybe we should be more like them. Resist our comfortable places and our known situations. Maybe we should cast ourselves out there into the unknown and go places that we've never been before. You know, we come from people who did that. Historically speaking, we come from people who did exactly that. We're a nation of rebels and pioneers. People that left the comfort and convenience of a more established culture way behind to forge a new path, to found a new system of government. We Americans are fiercely independent creatures. That's why it's so hard to govern us. It's like herding cats, you know? We all want to go our own way. We don't like being told what to do. And even though, get this, we formed a government, established a government by the people and for the people, we still don't trust the government. We're suspicious of external authorities. We rebelled against the kings and queens of Europe who called us their subjects, your subjects. We don't want to be a subject to any man or to any government or any doctrine. That's why in our own Declaration of Independence it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And those words, I want you to understand this morning, didn't merely just found a nation conceived in liberty, as Lincoln would later say. They founded a new philosophy and a new spirituality, because on that Independence Day, we didn't just claim our separation from a government. We claimed our separation from the Church of England, whom the king was the self-appointed pope of. You understand that up until then, there were no self-evident truths? None. Truth was dictated by the church. Doctrine was the exclusive right of the clergy, so no individual could forge their own spiritual path and determine what was true for themselves. That was unheard of. The road to personal salvation had to be designated by the church, had to be ordained by the church, otherwise you're just going to hell. And yet, ironically, every single great spiritual leader or mystic, the ones that we built religions around, the ones that we built philosophies around, people like Jesus and the Buddha, were all men who stepped outside the traditions of their own religions to forge a new path. Their wisdom came from their own personal vision quest. They were the spiritual pioneers of their own day, seeking to follow the self-evident truth within them and encouraging everybody else to do the same. So our founding fathers were right. Truth is self-evident. It's found in here within your own heart, not in old religions and dusty theologies. In his essay on self-reliance, Emerson says, to believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you is true for all men, that is genius. So there's something within you that's been given to you at birth. Do you know that? There's an internal guidance system. An internal guidance system that has been pre-programmed to you by your Creator. And here's the other thing to know about it. That pre-programmed guidance system is personal to you. It's particular to your particular character. And that self-evident knowing is as individualized as your own DNA. In other words, God speaks directly and distinctly to you. It speaks to me in a different way, totally different way. And that's why you're the only one who can determine your own path, and you're the only person who can be trusted to find your own way to truth. And that's why you must go in search of it personally and take your own vision quest. As Lara Owen, the author of the book that we're studying for inspiration this month, suggests, take your own personal vision quest. There is only room for one person on your individual spiritual path. You have to go alone to God. And I get it, that it would be a lot easier, maybe, and more comfortable to let the church's doctrine be your guide to enlightenment and not have to go your own way. Look, I know what happens when a woman steps out, a man steps out of the crowd and says, I'm going to follow my own spiritual path. How'd that work when you told your family you were coming here, right? I know what happens when you say, look, I'm going to follow the drum, the beat of the drum that I hear for myself. The world ridicules those who step out of line. It prefers conformity to individuals. And to be honest with you, if I had to be completely honest with you, sometimes I wish I could have done that, you know? To have been happy just accepting what everybody else believes. But I am absolutely convinced that that is not the road you and I have been created to travel. We have been designed by our Maker to be individuals. The Creator didn't make us in clumps, you know. We're not all connected at the hip. And to me, that means that we are supposed to take our own individual path and learn to trust our own intuition over anybody's opinion, and I do mean anybody. There's an old Jewish tale about a rabbi who, in spite of teaching his followers constantly to follow and find their own guidance within themselves, they kept coming back to him time and time again saying, tell us the truth, Rabbi. What should we do? What should we do? Tell us what to do. So he decided he's going to set up a booth. And in front of the booth, he hangs a sign. And the sign says, any 2 questions answered for $100. Well, the people in his community were outraged that he would do such a thing. But one day, one of his richest followers decides that he has 2 burning questions that he absolutely cannot get answered in his own mind, 2 questions that he just had to have the answers to. And so he goes to the rabbi, he sits in the chair outside the rabbi's booth, reluctantly pays him the $100, but in absolute protest, he says, don't you think $100 is a lot to pay for 2 questions? And the rabbi says, yes, and what is your second question? There's a moral to the story. The moral of the story is this: when you seek to find the truth outside of yourself, you're probably not only going to waste your time, you're also going to waste your money. Because the only thing they're going to tell you is what you already know yourself. 25 years ago, when I was a newly licensed young practitioner, I was so nervous. Oh my God, what am I going to do when someone calls me? What am I going to tell these people? I'm going to have all their answers. I was so nervous. But what I quickly learned is that they weren't really coming to me for answers. They were coming to me for permission. Permission to follow the guidance they had already had. Permission to believe in the dreams that had haunted them for so long. And finally, permission to just trust your own gut, your own intuition. My teacher, Dr. Kennedy Schultz, said something that burned in my head. He said, we don't get into trouble because we don't know what to do. We get into trouble because we know exactly what we should be doing, but we're not doing it. Think about that for a minute. Where are you in trouble in your life? What are you trying to get to happen that's not happening? Now, what is the truth that you already know that you have refused to admit? What do you already know you should do that you keep resisting? In 1968, Paul McCartney was 26 years old. And he was living alone in a London apartment by day, but staying up very, very late every single night out in the London nightclubs, partying, drinking, smoking, doing drugs, and trying to avoid hearing. Have you ever done this? Trying to avoid hearing an intuition that keeps going around in his mind that he did not want to admit, he did not want to have to face, and did not want to have to deal with. And the intuition says, your band is coming apart. The Beatles are breaking apart. John, George, and Ringo had all left England, were partnered and living abroad, so Paul was the only one left in the UK. And one night, after a particularly worrisome day, he went to bed and he had an amazing dream. Paul's mother had died when he was just 14 years old, but in the dream, he saw her coming towards him, just as clear as day and as young and as beautiful and as so fresh and serene. And she had come to him in his dream to offer him comfort and wisdom. And there were 3 words she kept saying to Paul: let it be. And for him, that meant to trust his own truth, his own intuition, that if he did, things were going to be fine no matter what he went through, to stop fighting and just accept things as they are. And this experience was so profound for him in this dream that he woke up the very next day and he ran over to the piano immediately to write a song about it. Oh, by the way, his mother's name was Mary. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be. Listen to me. This is very, very important. All of your struggle, and I do mean all of it, all of your struggle comes from trying to force things to happen that just aren't ready to happen. And all of your pain, every single ounce of it, comes from trying to keep things alive that you should have let die a long time ago. So maybe it's time for you to leave things alone. Maybe it's time for you to accept things as they are. So when you find yourself in times of trouble, go alone to God. Stop fighting. Stop arguing. Stop pressing. Stop making. Stop wrestling. Let it be. Take your quest and you will discover inside here that God has placed your own self-evident truth. And so ends the lesson. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like for us to share some prayer time together, if you don't mind. So I want to invite you to close your eyes and sit comfortably in your chairs. And if you are here for the very first time today, I want to tell you why we close our eyes in prayer. Because we do not want to judge by appearances. We do not want to be tricked and fooled by the bodies we brought here, because we are not bodies. We are made in the image and likeness of a Creator that knows no limit, of a love that is so unconditional, it can forgive all things, of a power that knows no perimeter. There is something that has been placed inside each one of us as an individual that is handcrafted, specially created as a gift and set free in the world. That you are not your income, you are not your car, you are not your house, you are not your education, you are not your body, you are not any condition present in your life that you are proud of, you are not any condition in your life that you are ashamed of, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you are the life of God that has made an entrance into this world at this time in history because it has something to give, to change, to heal, and transform the world. You have a power rising up from within you this very instant that can heal all things in its path. It knows you. It made you. It adores you. It is so in love with you. This knowing, this truth, heals all things. Like a steamroller, Rosa rolls across all disease, dysfunction, and discomfort. It is the healing we claim right now. In this instant, God has made all things new again. And so it is.